Welcome back to Flashpoint, a Charlotte nonprofit working to promote sustainability and smart growth in the new year. Sustain Charlotte is a familiar voice here on Flashpoint, and now they're looking to push their priorities in the new year. Joining us now is Eric Zaverl. He's an urban design specialist with Sustain Charlotte. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
All right, so you guys came out with this list of sort of 8 priorities that you'd like to see come to fruition this year. In your mind, what do you see as the biggest priority?
Oh, that's a tough one. They're all interconnected,
Sure,
and all important. So if you forget one or two, then it doesn't complete the full picture, right?
Yeah.
And you're leaving something out. So I think the themes, if we want to connect
Sure.
those, of being connected, a network, and this applies to our bike lanes, our greenways, and our transit system, right?
Yeah.
And being complete, which they're lacking right now.
And some people who might wonder, why are we lacking in those areas?
Yeah, well, we spent many decades focusing mainly on automobiles and cars,
Yeah.
right? And that infrastructure. So unfortunately, it's not going to be fixed overnight either. It's going to take some period of time, but we really have to start taking it seriously and investing appropriately. Big challenges require a big change, and that's what we've been focusing on and continue to focus on in 2024.
Yeah, you talk about challenges. I know so much of what you all focus on is transit and getting people moving outside of the cars. Last year was quite the year for CATS. It was plagued by problems, various different problems, and already in this new year, we've seen some problems in the last week of about half the cars being pulled off the track for the Blue Line. How detrimental is that to what is your mission here?
Well, I won't lie. Every time we see something like that in the news or an article, it definitely makes us say, well, it makes our job a little bit tougher, a little bit harder, because a lot of what we do is working with the public and getting them educated and informing them of how all these things are important and connected. And when we lack it, we don't have an example of it, and people don't experience it, it's really hard for them to see what life can be like in Charlotte if we had a fully functioning transit network that was reliable, that was frequent, and equivalent to what they experience today by being in the car. It's about choices too,
Sure.
and we lack those choices right now when we only have one mode of transportation we really could use.
One thing you all talk about, I know it's one of your priorities in the new year, and it's probably not something we talk about enough in the news media, and that is banishing parking minimums. And for folks at home, that's basically developments across the city are mandated to have a certain amount of parking. And when you first hear that, you think that makes sense. Okay, but you guys say, no, it's actually not a good thing. Explain.
Right, well, first off, and this is related to like when we the city introduced triplexes and duplexes, it doesn't mean that single family homes go away.
Sure.
The same thing with this, doesn't mean parking goes away, but right now we're mandating that everything that gets built has to have a certain amount of parking spaces, and a lot of that's arbitrary. They just come up with different metrics that really don't pertain to reality of how many spots you need. So that means everything that gets built has to spend a lot more money, more infrastructure, more space.
Because parking garages are expensive.
Yes, and that increases the cost of everything. Living, every time you buy a coffee or a grocery, and that developer and that person who's leasing that space has to pay more for that space, right?
Or rent. If you're paying rent, you're paying more rent.
You're paying more rent, yes, for that parking. And it prevents certain buildings from being built and certain things in that building from happening. If it's a restaurant, restaurants have to meet a certain requirement of a space, even if they're in a walkable neighborhood where a lot of their folks don't drive, they walk there from their house, they're required to have these spaces.
And it's also an issue in that the developer could still make a huge parking lot if they so choose. It just would not be mandated to them.
That is correct.
You don't end up with a city full of parking garages that are half empty.
Exactly, or big surface lots that are only maybe, like the mall at South Park, they don't really fill all those spots up, even on, Black
the biggest
Friday.
days,
Yes, so it's just a waste of space, really, when it comes down to, and an extra cost that we all have to bear.
So let's be realistic. What things do you think you can actually get done this year?
Well, you know, it is, and my background's planning. You know, you always have to be patient.
Yeah.
And you always have to look at the long view, the not the short term. And I know in society today, everybody wants everything to
Fast,
happen
yeah,
immediately,
totally.
right? We have our phones, and
Yep.
everything needs to happen quickly. We have to be patient. We look at this as the greater good, the big picture, and moving forward, chipping away at things. So if you know, making progress on removing parking minimums occur in certain districts, especially TOD or neighborhood centers,
Transit oriented, yeah.
you know, those areas, then that's a step in the right direction. It's not everywhere, perhaps, but we made some progress. We're realistic in terms of that, what we can get done in 1 year, but you never know. Sometimes things move quickly, and you know, like Raleigh, Durham, there's a dozen over cities across the country last year got rid of parking minimums.
All right.
So could be lucky.
Could be lucky. All right. Eric Zavarro with Sustain Charlotte. All right. Eric, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Up next on Flashpoint, an update to a story we followed for years. Next, the lawsuit filed against the city of Charlotte this week challenging a deadly police pursuit.